Hey guys, it's Will. Hopefully you're having a great day today. My name's Will Rich here, and we're going to jump into what is the data center market. And to be real with you, I've been following this market very closely because it's powering a lot of technology right now. But the issue that I'm having isn't a valuation issue. It's not a financial issue. It's not a news issue. It's not a chart, looking at the charts or the SEC filings or what people call an AI bubble or anything like that. It's actually related to the impact that the data centers are having on the world. And in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the other side of what could be the problem with data centers. I'm personally someone that lives in California normally. Right now we're traveling. I'm in Argentina visiting my wife's family. It's been good, but normally I'm in California, and I'm not a city person. I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up in uh, the foothills of California, and very quiet, where you can see the stars every night. You get to learn the Milky Way, and you get to learn the constellations. You get to have allergies in the spring because there's many pine trees and they're all, spewing pollen everywhere. And you have probably some animals, and maybe you have mountain lions or, coyotes, or you have to watch out at night because of you're in the middle of the forest type of deal, right? That's where I grew up. Now, in that environment, I could tell you that uh, sometimes you see the outside world. You get to see, you got to be really careful. You want to go see it for yourself. But technology has always been right in front of me. As someone in California, we get the iPhone, it comes out, oh, this is great, or the MacBook, or new microphones that are really good, or things like that. But you don't always see the behind the scenes of what goes into it. I'm talking about, you know, obviously there's things like the child labor when you're looking at, certain things. Maybe you're looking at the demand for the energy. And I want to talk today about the demand for energy with data center movement. Declan, what's going on? You see Michael here. Michael says D'Lo record earning last week, had a nice one. Pauline, what's going on? GE, Pauline says. Arshfish says, what's up? What's going on, Arshfish? Good to see you here. Hey guys, Berlin in Germany here. It's 1:30 a.m. What's going on, Thomas? Thanks for tuning in from Berlin. That's amazing. And again, it's a different video. I mean, we could go into the technicals, and you could go into the charts, you could go into the news. Let's look at all the recent deals from Microsoft and Google and Meta. It's like it's overwhelmingly large. But I thought I started off with a blank sheet here, and we could just kind of talk about which energy companies solve the issue of the massive demand for data centers without negatively impacting local communities or the environment for the demand on energy, and economically hurting any of the communities that data centers are built in. So there's a little different video, and I just wanted to start it off with this really cool article from Business Insider. Business Insider data center map. So this was a kind of a concern earlier this year, and Business Insider went out and they found all of the different data centers being built in the United States. Because the problem is that you had many Americans that were saying, hey, we didn't approve some of the builds of these data centers, or they're building in an area that have now changed how much energy costs are, how much it costs for us to be able to run our AC, or how much water costs because of these things. With my camera not working? Steven says your camera. What's going on with my camera? You see a black screen? Does anybody else see a black screen? Can you guys see me okay? I'm gonna assume that everything is good. And so you have all these different data centers being built by Amazon. You can see Lumen Technologies there, a data bank Lumen Technologies is a company that actually might have a solution. In fact, Lumen Orbit, let's see, Lumen Technologies here. Is this the same company? Is building data centers in space? Is that right? Is that correct? Is it the same company, Lumen Orbit? Because I've seen some companies like StarCloud, for example, that have said, okay, we're going to send the data centers up into space and we're going to run all this computing up in space. This company is backed by Y Combinator. You have a 5 gigawatt data center with a massive solar panel powering it. It's backed by Nvidia, it's backed by Y Combinator, and it's backed by IQT. And it says, as launch costs fall, data centers in space will leverage 24/7 solar energy, radiative cooling, and rapid deploying to gigawatt scale, avoiding permitting constraints on Earth. Permitting constraints on Earth, I think they could have nailed it better. Maybe that's the one thing that every tech founder's thinking. It's the permitting. It's the permitting why we can't build. No, it's the permitting, but it's also the impact on the earth. It's the permitting, yes, but it's the super duper loud noise of the data center built locally, or it's the massive water consumption of the energy. But I like they're speaking to the direct, that tech, the tech CEO that has blinders on and is saying, yes, it's just the permitting. It has nothing to do with the supply power or the amount of energy by the local community. I love how they just say it's the permitting constraints. It is the permitting constraints. They want to build data centers super fast, of course. But I think that it solves more than just the data center constraints. Looks like they got this rapid deployment, avoid restrictive permitting constraints. We're going to build data centers in space. How about it? So you got Y Combinator as a partner, Nvidia. Okay, you got some capital companies, Sequoia. So Google is working with them here. Andreessen Horowitz. So you got the founders here, founder CEO, co-founder CTO, founder, not sure who those people are, but that's what's going on. So data centers in space, because the problem is not just permitting down on Earth. There's a lot of studies that show that the cooling is an issue, that the noise is an issue, and that frankly the environmental impact on things like the massive amount of energy spend here on Earth is tremendous. And hey, it's a problem that they're solving by building it. So you can see all the different data centers springing up in just the United States alone. There's thousands of data centers that have been springing up, and you could search them up. We could search up AWS, or maybe we gotta search Amazon. There we go. Look at all the Amazon data centers. So many Amazon data centers. See that? So you're looking at a solution here with this company, and I don't know, is Lumen Orbit on the stock exchange? Let's take a look. Lumen Orbit. Lumen Orbit stock. Doesn't let me really look at it. So Lumen Technologies, is that the same company? I don't know if it's the same company. Lumen Orbit. I think it's a private company, and Lumen Technologies is a different company. Oh no. No, it's actually the same company. All right, so then their ticker symbol is going to be LUMN. So I like this because it kind of solves the problem of negatively impacting local communities. Thomas says cooling shouldn't be a problem in space. I think it's still a problem. Like, the space cooling won't work the exact same, but it could be solved. And so you can see Lumen Technologies surged from $3 back in August to $11 a share. Let's take a look at their stock over the last year, see how they've been. Volatile. They've had some serious volatility, overall downtrend, and then recently started to get some momentum and then pulled back here. Overall downtrend for the company, but seeing some momentum over the last 6 months. And Steven says, I think Lumen's going to be huge because of this. Now let's take a look at Lumen Technologies. And let's take a look at a few things. Number one, let's take a look at their stock. And then number two, let's take a look at their financials. Because the problem, again, the biggest challenge around building a company that is primarily driven with values. So values would be like very helpful for technology, very helpful for companies in tech, but then you got values like integrity, and you have values like generosity and compassion and sympathy, because those are things you got to think about in the local communities when you have things that are real, like noise pollution or general pollution, water pollution, energy consumption that changes the economics of different communities. Those are real problems in data centers. I'm not someone that sits here, makes videos about data center stocks all day long and says, yeah, guys, it's going to the moon. Everybody buy data center stocks. Everybody, look, we're rich. We're making a bunch of money. Yes, we've seen them grow, but that's not the main goal. The goal is never just to make money. That's why we don't invest primarily in things like pharmaceutical stocks. That's why we don't trust companies that have done manipulation in the past. That's why we look at the financials of companies. Because if you don't look at those things, then you're trying to get consistent values out of something in the stock market or in investing without putting in consistent values that would be worthy of great returns. Great returns consistently long, and not just returns from a capital perspective, but from a moral compass perspective. When you're looking at, data centers, you have to factor in the usage. It's the same deal with investing in a company like Nike. You might love the profit sheet on Nike. Are you going to stand by child labor? You got to look at those things, right? And I think that's something that they've corrected. I don't think that's a big issue now over at Nike, but it's still a real thing that I don't know about you, but I love the different lessons that we've learned from Warren Buffett, but it's not something that I really aspire when I see Coca-Cola is the main, most profitable investment that Warren Buffett has made. Because how much value to the world does Coca-Cola make? It's not very healthy, right? And so I think, this is my theory, and this is what has led to my success. And I've personally been able to build the life that I want doing this, is that you can invest in companies that generate a generous return and make you money, and also still keep integrity and values in check while you're investing. And you have to apply the same thing to data centers. We have to look at, I want to check in. How many of you guys, I know there's 1 or 2 subscribers on YouTube that are from North Dakota. What has been the impact of the APLD data centers being built in North Dakota? Is there any articles that have come out? I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but let's take a look. North Dakota data center local news. Controversial data center moves forward in East North Dakota. It's kind of the first article, controversial data center moves forward. And then you got Fargo here, will not pursue annexation of potential Applied Digital. They reached a 20-year deal. There's concerns. When you look at the North Dakota Monitor and they're looking at this data center building, you can see what they say here, that Harwood City leaders pushed forward with a planned data center development after contentious public hearings. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended rezoning 320-acre area southeast east of Harwood from agricultural to light industrial. The city the city council approved the first reading of the zoning change and a building permit for MBM Engineering of Fargo that will work on the project. A second vote by the council is required. And it's coming out in the October meeting. These are things that are really good to see. Harwood Mayor Blake Hankey said the zoning change in data center would help insulate Harwood from development from north side Fargo, hoping it's going to stop Fargo from coming into our backyard. Okay. They're talking about the data centers conflicting with each other. I think people are too anxious to jump on the AI bandwagon without really thinking this through. Okay. That's what one of the residents said. If built, this data center would, with its largest data center, it's a town of just 1,100 people, and the project received a cool reception at the community meeting. It's a significant number of jobs, but not an overwhelming number of jobs. The off-peak rate increase by the electrical cooperative will provide power to the data center. That's not related to the project. It's as soon as we can make it happen. We love the weather here for what we do, but it does create some problems for construction. So there's a little animosity between like locals saying like, hey, it's creating some more jobs, but this isn't so hot. We don't really like to see this data center springing up right here. And, these are the types of questions that you kind of got to look deep into. These local articles, these local looks at, hey, is there some trouble with the data center market? Birthing pains from Meta's data center construction primarily focuses many responses from local. It's a $27 billion data center. The local says, I'm scared to death to back out in front of a big truck or something, because apparently there's a lot more construction happening. Okay, that makes sense. But you got to think about the families. You got to think about the locals. You got to think about the view. You got to think about, this is a massive data center. It's like installing a microchip on the earth, right? That's what it looks like. It's going to get hot. It's going to get loud. It's going to get produce a large amount of energy. It's going to radiate, and it's not going to be something that you always want to be next to if you're living next to it. And so these, it's next to, elementary school right here where they're building it. And it's a big site. It looks exciting. It's really good. But we got to think about these things when we're investing in these companies, because you're not just buying something that's going to make you money. You also got to look that they're doing it ethically, right? And at this point, for the most part, when it comes to specifically APLD, they're building something that is essentially, yeah, right? It looks like a microchip on Earth. That's what I'm saying. It looks like a microchip on Earth. When I look at this image right here, it looks like a microchip that's getting ingrained in the Earth, essentially. And so I'm not a hater. I'm not a enthusiast, but I definitely am looking at this and saying, hey, can we just make sure locals are good with it? Can we just make sure that the impact is not going to be negative? Because there are certain instances where it has been negative. There's also certain instances where it's been really positive. It's brought more jobs, like that was one of the pros, but it's also been in a extreme surplus area where the amount of energy that is being produced from that area, it's a very small amount for that data center. It's a very small amount. There's certain instances where it makes sense. So I bring all this up to say that there are some companies that are working on, for example, building in space. This company, Lumen Solutions Connectivity. Let's see, is this the right company? Are we looking at the right company here? Building the backbone for AI, high capacity connections for AI expansion, AI ready innovation with intention, energy efficient systems for AI infrastructure. So this company, Prometheus Hyperscale, is revolutionizing data centers with sustainable energy efficient systems for AI infrastructure. With support from Lumen Private Connectivity Fabric and Black Lotus Labs, Prometheus is championing a new era of efficient, scalable digital infrastructure by promoting eco-conscious innovation. I think it's a good thing to do. You got investments from Pac-12 even. They're working with them, Churchill Downs, along with VSP Vision. And the company is looking to innovate in a way that is ethical on the energy. Are you guys tracking? Does that make sense? Do you guys understand why I'm covering this? Do you see how this is a problem? You guys all tracking? Because what I'm saying is that you're going to make more money when you invest in a way that your values are aligned in the process of investing. Have you ever heard the term, you can't make a good deal with a bad guy or girl? You can't make a good deal with a bad person. You can't make a good profit with a bad thesis. Now, there's certain companies where they're bad and you can make money from them by shorting them. That's the beauty of the market. And I love that. I love that exists. And that's really cool. Because there's a lot of companies like that. But there are, the Lumen approach here, you see their revenues. Their revenue has kind of dropped a little last year, down to about 13 billion in 2024. 2025, they're on track to do about 12 billion. But here's the deal with this company. Their liabilities are higher at 35 billion. They're still struggling. They need more backing. They need more backing to make it possible. And they pivoted from other types of tech, fiber optic, copper networks, to now pivoting more primarily to these energy efficient, sustainable data centers. So I would hope that they can get more assets than liabilities in their next quarter. That's what you want to see. And if they can do that and hold this $3 billion in revenue, and come on, if you're making $3 billion, let's make it positive net income. Why are you spending $3.6 billion a quarter? Let's make it a positive net income like we saw back in December. And then if they can do that, this Lumen Technologies company is looking like a top pick in sustainable energy for data centers. So let's add them into the energy market. And I'm just going to call this sustainable data. Sustainable data. And I can't wait until, conversation, it's maybe a little more like, hey, quantum computers are making it work and all that. I would love that. Steven, what's going on? Steven is here. Randy said StarCloud is building data centers in space. That's what we were just talking about up here. So you can check out their white paper and what they're doing. They're not publicly traded, but I'd love to see that. They're building the data centers in space, and they have a white paper breaking it down, and they're anticipating to launch. If they get this right, and they could do this in a way that works, there's no water usage in space. There's no backup power supply needed in space. The launch is going to be about 5 million. The cost of the array is about 2 million. So the actual cost of launching a data center into space would be cheaper than building it on Earth. Now, I think if they're going to do it, they have to have, I think maybe they can do it fully automated. It's quite possible. It's quite possible. My theory is that they would want to work with companies on a and have somebody up there, I think. Chetta says Poets. What's going on with that stock, Chetta? Poets, what's going on? How are you doing today? Poet Technologies. Optical interposer hardware products. Cool. Take a look there. Data center type tech. So yeah, so basically, if you guys are just tuning in right now, the issue is that you want to align your values in life. It's called the outer intention. It's called the feeling good about yourself. and having integrity and feeling good, rather than like trying to do something that deep down you know it's not good. And it's like data centers, right? Data centers, I'm so excited. I have an AI company right here. I'm that guy that has an AI company, but I'm not looking at it how most tech entrepreneurs look at it, probably, because most tech entrepreneurs are looking at Star Cloud and they look at it and they're reading the description of these data centers in space, and they say, as the launch costs fall, data centers in space will leverage 24/7 energy, radiative cooling, rapidly deploying it to gigawatt scale, avoiding permitting constraints on Earth. I don't see it as permitting constraints. Like, it's a real thing, but it's an impact problem. It's an impact problem. And so you got to look at the local communities, you got to look at the impact on Earth. You're building a technology that's human, it's using a lot of resources down on Earth. And so what you can see here on this publication here from Star Cloud here, it says data centers unlock next generation clusters of a scale not seen yet on Earth. With power generation well into the gigawatt range, they can be linearly scaled nearly indefinitely without the physical and planning constraints that plague terrestrial projects of this size. They're calling Earth projects just terrestrial projects. If current trends continue, multi-GW clusters will be required from 2027 to train the largest language models. Consider a 5 gigawatt cluster, which will be needed to train models like Llama 5 or GPT-6. This would exceed the capacity of the largest power plant in the US and some of the largest operational power plants in the world. These clusters are therefore simply not possible with today's energy infrastructure. At the same time, these clusters will be essential to train the next generation of AI models of the future. To scale to gigawatts in orbit, compute modules, power, cooling, and networking can be assembled together in a modular fashion. Compute modules can also be assembled with architectures that scale in 3D rather than 2D as on Earth, ensuring a cluster is as tightly coupled with as low latency within the cluster as possible, a critical property of AI training clusters. There are also potential opportunities to leverage the fact that the speed of light in a vacuum is 35% faster than in a typical glass fiber. So they're also arguing that not only are we looking at the scalability, they're looking that the speed of light in a vacuum is 35% faster in typical glass fiber, which they might actually see speed increases as a result of launching into space with these data centers. Now, the design principles of what they're mostly looking at here: modularity, maintainability. Old parts containers should be easy to replace without impacting large parts. Network architecture, they kind of map out how that looks, how the data centers roughly are going to function in space. And thermal management, which I'd like to really look at that. Thermal management needs to be transferred from the center of the data center to the radiators. This will be achieved using several cooling loops, using two-phase systems where practical to reduce mass flow requirements, therefore reducing pumping losses. Then you have some different radiated power versus temperature, how they plan to manage the temperature in space, and launch, orbit, maintenance, and honestly, they could focus a little more on the big problem they're solving by not having it down here on Earth. But you see Mark Zuckerberg there's a few different quotes here. Sam Altman says, "We still don't appreciate the energy needs of this technology. There's no way to get there without breakthrough. We need fusion or need radical cheaper solar plus storage or something. Sam Altman. Elon Musk says, we have silicon shortage today, a voltage step down transformer shortage probably in about a year, and then just electricity shortages in general in about 2 years. So if you had to think about the data center market, say, how are things going to be operated 5 years from now? You might be looking at space data centers as a reliable solution. So I love it. Let's continue to dive into it. Tigatron says, hey, Will, when Elon mentioned a gigafab factory due to the need of AI data center chips, what companies do you think would consider building / investing into chip factories? Hopefully in the US. AMD would definitely. Taiwan Semiconductor already is. On Semiconductor already is. Is there other ones that I could think off the top of my head? That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, let me take your comment here. Let me run it through an AI to see if there's a way to find that. So that would be semiconductor fabrication. And let me generate a watch list here. Let's see if we can get an output. I just copied what you said and let's see. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, NVIDIA is investing in their new factories. As far as what companies do you think would consider investing into chip factories? Yeah, you got AMD, you got, is that Intel, Taiwan Semi, NVIDIA. So those we could add to our watch list. Let's see. Chip fabricators. I love using this AI watch list generator we just added. QCOM, is that Qualcomm? Qualcomm is another one. We could add some more. Let's see, semiconductor factories. See if we get a better answer here. We may just get NVIDIA. We still got NVIDIA. Okay. All right. I'd like to fine tune that some more. Cool. All right. So yeah, those are some of the companies. You could screenshot it. I would probably add On Semi. I think they got their own factory over in Phoenix. Those are some of the top ones, at least fabricated in the US. Chetta says TSSI, Riot, and Indie. TSSI, as far as chip factories, or are you talking about something else? Are you looking for analysis? Let me know. Yeah. TSSI. How are they doing today? Semiconductors today, a little bit of a sell-off there. You did see some green. We were doing some analysis earlier today. Data center plays. Got it. Yeah, data center plays for sure. And so we just went over some of the top. I'm excited. We got to go over some of the top problems. You know, we went over all of the different data centers springing up according to Business Insider, where they're springing up in the United States. We got to go over the construction of data centers into space to preserve Earth and make it easier on not just communities down here on Earth, but use less resources from the Earth and be able to not decrease living from people down on Earth, or decrease the standard of living for people down on Earth here. We also talked about some different companies that were in the technology of sustainable energy for data centers. And we also went through some local news on APLD and different data center companies and how they're receiving the different feedback from local communities around building data centers, and that we want to have integrity around what we choose to invest in Even if we're looking for profits, there's a way to what is it? Save 2 birds with 1 worm, right? Indy's semiconductor, but for vehicles. Got it. Okay, I'll add them into the semiconductor list. Here's a larger semiconductor list. I don't know that they're all fabricating, but you can also take a screenshot there. And I'll go ahead and add that as well. Appreciate that. Thanks so much, guys. And as always, if you want to tune into our daily live trading sessions, the second link down below will make sure you can join in. And we have you'll find that there's some really great insights as well as the daily live trading Monday through Friday. If you haven't already taken a look, it's the second link below. You can get our targets for the week, join the community of investors there, and learn how to invest with me Monday through Friday. Every day, Monday through Friday, we are there. We were there this morning, and we're there most days right at market open. You get a link in your email, and you can join us there. Now, when it comes to the 21st day, we were going to have a release here for a revolutionary new AI system that I want to share with you guys. We're actually going to be pushing it to next Friday. So we got to add some really amazing features for our current beta users, but as we are working towards making the experience as best as possible, we are pushing our beta close and shift into general availability till next week. So I just want to give you guys a quick announcement there, kind of know what's going on there. And some of you guys were really looking forward. Simply says targets of the week. Yeah, I could show you what that looks like. So here's an example. Like, let's say we have a bunch of stocks reporting earnings. I'll give you kind of like current price targets, different catalysts for each stock. And you can see all the different stock companies when they're reporting earnings Monday through Friday. So pre-market or after hours, which companies are reporting. And then I'll give you, if they're in the industries we like AI, space, tech, quantum, all that, then I will oftentimes have targets for those companies and what we would expect for them to do around earnings. This week, we're looking for a push up on NVIDIA, which we did get, and then a recovery, or a pull down and then recovery. We have about 28 millionaires inside of StockMe too. So you can always talk with the community here along with myself. If you ever want to send me a message, I'm there for you. But yeah, that's what I mean by targets for the week. So would love to see you there. I market open on Monday, and we have a huge sale there. It's not getting better than this. Second link in the description. Would love to see you there in StockMe. Again, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye for now. Thanks, Steven. Chetta. Degatron. Saw Randy in here. Pauline, good to see Paul. Declan, thanks for tuning in from the UK. Appreciate you guys. See you in the next one.